Yo, yo. I'm gonna wait on some of y'all to get in here, and then we're gonna get into it. Again, I'm gonna wait for some of y'all to get in here, then we're gonna get into it. For who is in here, how you feeling today? How's life treating you? Are you blessed, family? Sophia Sofa was cracking. What's up? What's up? Blessings to everybody that's come in today. Lakita, much love. I'm gonna go ahead and start discussing what we're gonna get into. This is my first live stream, one of many. One of many. And this particular live stream will be about channeling and how real that is. For those of you who are not familiar with channeling, it's going to be about channeling, how real that is. And it's also going to be about the law of one material, the raw material, and how it may just be the greatest spiritual text to have graced the planet since the fall of consciousness. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with my own story, I have been a student of spirituality in a variety of ways for the past 15 or 17 years. Been teaching meditation for about 15 years. And been meditating for about 17 years. And it puts me in a position where, I've had the honor of being able to gain access to different types of information, and also being able to tap into different states of consciousness. And I really want my whole message to be one of love and peace and salvation, and practical ways in which you can apply these things to your life so that you can reach the goals that you've been wanting to reach, whether it be material or whether it be one of a more spiritual nature. In some instances, they can mirror each other. So we have 17 people in here. Soon we just get a few more, we'll go ahead and get it started. Let me go ahead and start adding the images. Go ahead and start adding the images in here. But again, peace be upon everybody that is in the building. And bear with me. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get it cracking. Get it started. So let me go ahead and add this to the stage. Boom. Can everybody see that? Before I get started, I just want to know if everybody can see that that's in here right now. Just drop the praying hands or something if you can see it. All right, respect. So, what is channeling for those that don't know? Channeling is the process of receiving information, energy, or guidance to a source beyond the conscious mind. It's not something strange or mystical. It's actually a natural state of awareness that we all access, often without realizing it. From a scientific point of view, channeling happens when the brain shifts into an altered state, like deep meditation, trance, or flow. And we're going to get into meditation. If you haven't already started meditating, I have a how-to video to do it. So you don't have to purchase a consultation to do a one-on-one. I already got one up here that I feel like I did a good job of explaining. If you want to go further, we can. But in these states, the usual filters of the mind quiet down, and we become more open to what's called non-local information, insights that come from outside of time and space. Spiritually, channeling is when your consciousness tunes into higher frequencies, whether that's your higher self, your guides, the Akashic field, or even divine intelligence. You're not forcing anything, you're receiving, you're becoming a clear channel. So, chat, is anybody in here familiar with the channeling state? Is anybody in here familiar with the channeling state? And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you may not realize it, but you channel all the time. You see, this vessel that we're in, that we call the human body, as you know, after somebody is no longer alive, no longer living, no longer on this side, um, you can tell by looking at the vessel that something unique has left. So, what made the person alive is not the physical body itself. What made the person alive is the essence. And as we know, if you consume alcohol, the essence is slightly different. If you take this medication, the essence is slightly different. And if you're put into a hypnotic state, the essence is slightly different. And that allows us to know that in some ways, even the consciousness that you are looking at me with right now is a channeled consciousness by the human body, which functions much like a radio. But we shall get into that. Let's continue. Scientifically, channeling is often understood as a neurocognitive and energetic phenomenon where a person taps into information beyond their conscious mind. Again, this non-local field. Here's how it's interpreted. The brain enters altered states, theta or delta wave frequencies. That is something that happens in meditation, often seen in deep meditation transfer flow. In these states, the default mode network, it's really important, we'll come back to that, which keeps you oriented in ego identity, becomes quiet, allowing non-local information to emerge. The person may access subconscious memories, archetypes, or what quantum theorists call the 0-point field, a field of infinite potential and information. Some scientists also explore the concept of quantum entanglement and non-local consciousness where information isn't bound by time or space. So from this view, channeling is the ability to bypass ego filters and access deeper layers of intelligence, whether internal and external. So what really is occurring here, as it spoke about the default mode network, there's a lot of scientific evidence that shows us this default mode network, as it said, it deals with the ego, the sense of self. This is the part of the brain that deals with hypervigilance, depression, etc. And they found that when a person is a deep meditator, the default mode network goes quiet. And you also find that if you were to use a medicine like psilocybin or the magic mushroom, same thing happens. The default mode network goes quiet. And when it goes quiet, that sense of self that you've developed that you call the personality, it too goes quiet. So now the version of yourself that existed before the formation of this particular personality is able to come through. And in many ways, depending on how far you extend your, we could say your signal, so to speak, you can access other types of consciousness. But this is why the most important part, as it shows, is to get into this meditative state. Now, many people are not aware of how often we move into different states of consciousness. And when we move into these different states of consciousness, we're able to access particular things. So if you look at this diagram here, this will show you the brain waves that we as humans access. You know, when we're just alert, moving around like how we're talking right now, we're in the beta hertz frequency. Then if you're getting like a massage, you're vibing out, etc., you'll go into a relaxed state, which is known as the alpha frequency. And this is where you're starting, when you're meditating, this is where you start to get into that very calm meditative state. You could tell that your breathing is different. Your thought process is different. You know, you're starting to go more into your inner world instead of your external world. And then after that, when, as it says here, you're tired, you go into theta state. And this is where you're able to actually start accessing more of the creative, imaginative part of yourself. And one mistake that's often made is we think the imagination is a plaything, when the imagination itself is the greatest tool we have for transformation. It is the creative part of the being. I want you to understand this while we're talking about theta, because when you're able to tap into this creative force, you are essentially becoming the creator, meaning you are taking something from the ether, something that does not exist here, pull it down into manifestation. Remember that everything that exists came from the spiritual world first. As an example, the computer that I'm talking on right now. This computer did not exist before. And there was a time where there were no computers. But then somebody had an insight. What if I could make this thing where it has a screen and all of the mechanics of it that will allow for us to, do the work that we do on computers? And before he created it, it had to only exist in his mind. But that's where everything exists first, is in mind. And then when you give it enough charge, you hold it, you're consistent in holding that thought, then spirit starts to manifest it down here. And that is the creative forces, being able, through excitement, to pull down what it is that you want within this manifestation. So this is why when you meditate, this is the state that you will be able to get in, which will allow for you to pull information out of that field and other fields that exist outside of our regular bandwidth of consciousness. You guys following so far? If you guys are messing with the vibes, please drop some praying hands in the comments. Drop some praying hands in the comments. All right, next, Delta. This Delta state of consciousness is where we will start to find ourselves exiting the physical vessel. That's not necessarily what you have to do to get into a channeling state, because you really only need to be in theta, but Delta allows for a much higher level of channeling, and that's what we're going to get into. So what's interesting is, as you saw, we started at beta, and then we went to alpha, went to theta, went to delta, but gamma, for some reason, seems to be above beta, and gamma is actually one of the channeling states of being. This channeled state of being, or when you're in gamma in general, is where you'll find the meditation masters of the world who are able to project their energy, who are able to have psychic ability, mediumship. When they're hooked up to electrodes, they are actually allowed to, or they see on these machines that they've gone into this gamma state of consciousness. Now, before we go much further, I want to show you guys a video of a very popular channel. His name is Bashar. Any of you guys familiar with Bashar in here? Anybody familiar with Bashar? Just hit yes in the chat. But Bashar is a very popular channel who claims to channel a being from another reality, an extraterrestrial being from a parallel reality, actually. And they actually put him and hooked him up to a machine while he was in this channel state of being. Okay, great. You guys know Bashar. And I want to show you guys that video. Just bear with me. Actually, you know what? I don't even gotta share it to do that. 1 second. Let's do it like this. All right, you guys check this out briefly. Get into
The
it.
channeling class taught me to alter my brain waves to match Bashar's frequency. He does the same thing on his ship, and somewhere in the middle, our vibrations meet and harmonize. When they do, my body becomes like a biological resonator, and my personality starts to mirror his.
So that's very interesting right there. Like he said, the frequencies must match, and then his body starts to act like a personal resonator. So they start to reflect each other. There's a union that occurs that allows for Daryl Ankin, who channels Bashar, who is the entity, for that to take place. Let's continue.
That's an EEG cap, and it's going to be recording your brain waves as we measure various states that we'll be exploring today. And looking up here, we can see that each of the electrodes that we have hooked up on that cap have achieved a level of impedance that is accurate and that will properly record the brainwaves without interference.
In the beginning of the channeling, the channel was capable of holding on to, shall we say, or bringing through the idea of about 1.5 to 2% of our energy. In the ensuing years following the initiation of contact with the channel, it was thus then capable in the channel's body of expressing our energy up to about 3%. On average now, we are expressing about 5% of our total energy.
So we're looking at a picture of Daryl's baseline EEG. And what I've done is to record Daryl's baseline when he is not channeling and compare that to his EEG when he is channeling. Now here is a picture of Daryl's raw EEG, baseline again, in which we see a very rounded and rhythmic dominant frequency, we call it, in the posterior cortex, or the back of the head. And this is a good finding, it's a positive finding, because it tells us that Daryl's nervous system is stable, and also that he has what we call good thalamocortical functioning. And this is a common feature, a characteristic that is found in individuals who are peak performers. So here we have a picture of what disconnects when Daryl begins to channel. And you can see the areas in blue, the functional Brodmann areas, we call them, that are not used when he is channeling. And it appears that he disconnects from his personal sense of self. He disconnects from the experience of pain. Now, what increases when he begins to channel is, first of all, his processing speed. And processing speed is a very interesting phenomenon because what happens is it develops early in childhood.
So before we continue, you see, she said that he disassociates with his personal sense of self. So in order to channel, in order to bring through spirit of any kind, you must learn how to differentiate between that ego identity, that part of the self that, it believes itself to be separate, and you must allow yourself to unify. And one of the easiest ways to allow this to happen is to open your heart. But let's continue.
And by about the age of 5 or 6, and certainly 9 or 10 maximum, we reach a set point. And this set point doesn't usually change during the lifetime. And in Daryl's case, it actually went up when he began to channel. And it increased when he listened. The actual frequency of the processing speed was tuned to an exact frequency all over the brain. Now we're looking at Daryl's anterior cingulate while he's channeling. And you can see the red areas there. There is actually gamma frequencies that I found in his anterior cingulate. And gamma frequencies relate to the higher mind. And gamma frequencies are often found in Tibetan monks and people.
Again, like it says, the Tibetan monks, you see, like this is a universal thing, just like how we all can breathe, just like how we all can eat, just like how we all can sleep. These are things that just come with us as humans. None of us are quote unquote special. We're all unique, but these abilities we all have.
People who meditate a lot. To summarize sort of what I found here in Daryl's brain in comparison with the channeling state, he starts from a very stable resting state. And then he experiences changes that statistically less than 1% of the population would experience in the same way. He increases his processing speed. He tunes it exquisitely to one frequency all over the brain. And then he's able to create a resonant holding environment for the peak performance or the channeling to happen. He pumps energy into the right frontal cortex and the right auditory cortex so that he can empathize and hear very, very clearly. And because of the gamma frequencies in the anterior cingulate, he can shift gears. He'll be able to shift gears and navigate cognition, thoughts, and emotions very, very flexibly.
Yes, indeed. So I wanted to bring that up to you guys, just so if you weren't familiar with Bashar, you can go check out his work. Bashar's work to me is amazing, truly is. But just to get you some background on how all of us not only have the ability to channel, but channeling is what allowed for the same information that people are in love with from the biblical texts or any of the Abrahamic religions. Channeling is what allows for humans, us, to connect with the divine. It's what allows for us to have that level of communication. We're able to raise our vibration to a degree so that they can meet our vibration, and then this unification can occur. And as a result of what I'm sharing with you guys, as I said, as a result of what I'm sharing with you guys, my fault, I was reading one of the comments in the chat. This particular channeling state has brought us the law of one material. And the law of one material, in my opinion, is without question one of the greatest spiritual texts that has ever been on this planet since the fall of man. And I want to introduce you guys to more of why I believe that to be the case and more truths about what channeling is. So next, what we're going to pull up is about dissociative disorders, because what you'll find here with a quick Google search is, in rare instances, individuals with dissociative identity disorder exhibit differences in medical conditions, including allergies and diabetes across their distinct identities, as some alters might be allergic to oranges or exhibit diabetes symptoms while others do not. I want you guys to realize what that's actually saying. If you're really thinking about that, it's telling you that this person who has multiple personalities, when they move into one personality, the physiology changes. Where in this particular personality that they're in, like I said, they're allergic to oranges. But the moment they move out of that personality, that part of the body that can no longer receive oranges, now it's receptive to oranges. They can eat oranges just fine. But now they have diabetes, so the pancreas isn't working. And the fact that that can exist in one person, and the fact that it's the personality that's controlling that, lets us realize a thing, that our mental state is what's really controlling the physiology. And why, when people are channeling, it's like they assume a different personality, much like a person who has multiple personality disorder. So from one perspective, we can even see that our unwellness, ailments in our bodies, are held by personalities. And those personalities are born of the various emotions that we either are willing to feel or suppress. So one way of healing yourself, just as a quick segue, is to change the personality and allow for yourself to really do deep work on what you're holding on to that's making you manifest the system that you are calling, or manifest the symptom that you're calling a disease. All right, moving onward. Yes, Lakita. Wow, something is definitely something to think about. It really is. All right, so again, the human body is a radio. And if we look at how a radio works, by transmitting and receiving electromagnetic waves, with a transmitter encoding information onto a radio wave, a carrier wave, and a receiver decoding that information to produce sound. And that's exactly what's happening. We when we diminish that default mode network, whether it's we're using psychedelics or we're deep in a meditative state, that's how we're allowed for that information packet to come through being in the delta waves or even in the gamma state. And then when it comes through, we're able to now transduce that packet of information, the information that was given to us via the being that's trying to communicate. Would you say if you change the way you think, your perception changes? Absolutely. You change the way you think, your body feels differently. I mean, if I were to take this, is say I had an imaginary ticket. Let's say on this piece of paper I wrote 821653 and I slid it to you. How would you respond? You wouldn't feel anything. You'd be like, oh, I don't feel no type of way. But then um, if I told you that that was the winning lottery ticket numbers, you would then say, oh, wow, you feel real excited. But if I told you that's the amount of time you're about to do for fraud, then you have a completely different emotion. And just through that simple analogy, you could tell that it's your perception that's creating a lot of what you feel in your physiology. And even more so than that, you really can't have a feeling without having a belief first. So now that we've set the stage, let's get into one of the greatest channelers I believe has ever walked the earth. Very happy to introduce you guys to Carla Rutger. Carla Rutger is the main channeler of the series that I'm been reading on my YouTube page and the audiobooks, known as the Law of One. And boy, Carla, she got with two of her peers, Don Elkins, who is the person that asked the questions, and Jim McCarty, another person who she was dating at the time. And the three of them were able to bring through what was known as a sixth density being. This being comes from above what we normally would refer to as heaven. The sixth density is a state of consciousness that exists 2 to 3 levels above essentially where we are now. We're in the third density. They say the fourth density is that of love, which is the dream state that we normally go to. That's the reality that we're evolving into now. Then the fifth density is that of wisdom, and that's normally referred to as heaven. That's what most of us experience as heaven, moving into fifth density consciousness. And this sixth density consciousness is a fusion between love and wisdom, the balancing of the two. In this particular state, you have to be a very evolved being to get there. But beings from the sixth density, according to this information, as an attempt to evolve to move into the seventh density, they reach down into the lower dimensions for those calling for something higher. And they allow them to ask questions, and they provide what's known as the Law of One. And that's what we're going to get into. So Carla was channeling, or Carla, I should say, was the channeler, but the presence of Jim and Don there also allowed for her to channel this particular entity known as Ra. And Ra told them that it was what was known as a social memory complex. And you might be saying, what's a social memory complex? Because look, when I first was reading the Law of One, I had no idea what a social memory complex was. But a social memory complex, as they put it, is the entirety of a planet's consciousness all comes together and unifies when the planet evolves. And it becomes a unified being that recognizes itself as one entity, but still has the ability to have its own individualized piece of consciousness. Much like how our physical body, right? Like me, I'm Tigo, but I have billions of cells in my body that have all different types of operations and they do all different types of things, but they still all make the one Tigo. And it's a similar thing in this ideology. It's basically saying that as we evolve as souls, much like how raindrops evolve and turn into a cloud, we also evolve back and turn into larger beings, as it calls it, a social memory complex. This is how we expand and evolve in the higher dimensions. And this particular being, Ra, was describing the process of how this occurs. Now, Ra shared some very, very interesting information. I'm gonna let you guys see what the cover of the book looks like as well. Give me 1 second. Chat, how are you feeling? Let's see. The balancing of the scales. Indeed. All right. Let's see where the file is. All right. Here's a file I have about what Ra is in general, just to give you guys another overview. Ra said that they are from the sixth density and they are, in their words, a social memory complex. This is what a planetary population becomes in the densities of evolution beyond our own. In this arrangement, the thoughts, memories, and experiences of every individual are known and available to the whole group. The entire social body then consists of many unique individuals who also have access to a shared group repository of memory and identity. That's what real unconditional love is. When you think about it, y'all, that's the unification that we want to experience. This is the evolutionary path. All right. This is what Ra had to say about Earth. According to Ra, the population of Earth will birth its own social memory complex after its graduation to the fourth density is complete. Just as individuals evolve over time, the social memory complex likewise evolves, transforming and becoming more unified as the lessons of each higher density of evolution are successfully grasped. To Ra, as a social memory complex, there is no distinction between an individual and the whole group. Thus, when we communicated with those of Ra, we spoke to one individualized entity of the social memory complex. Since everyone in the group accesses a shared mind, it was as if they were communicated with all 6.5 million entities of the Ra social memory complex. Now, what's very interesting about this entity, Ra, the planet that they evolved from was the planet Venus. If I remember correctly, they say it was about 60 million years ago. So this is the planet Venus's consciousness evolved into an entity communicating with these three at this time. Carla the Channeler, Jim, and Don would go into a room and let you guys see what this looks like. It's really fascinating stuff. Give me 1 second. Should have it here. And if I don't, I'm going to have to pull it in because you guys need to see this. I want you guys to see what it looked like when Carla was channeling. It's so cool. Here we go. Let me share the screen with y'all real quick. Yeah. You see right here on the right hand side, you see how she has the Bible behind her head and then also has the cup and the candle. When she was doing this work, what's crazy is I'm gonna pull up with some other perspectives. Let's see where the image went so you guys can see it a little better. Here we go. When they were doing this work, it was super important to have things in harmony and certain geometry so that they would be able to channel this entity known as Ra. As you can see, here Don is actually adjusting everything to make sure that the frequency could come through. Because, like I said, the human body truly is like a radio. And this was a way for them to access higher dimensional entities through a strong portal such as Carla. And again, Carla isn't truly unique or special, but she had a knack for this. But all of us can get into a state and channel if that's what we so choose to do. All the images, they're not popping up. Okay, let me try it again. Give me 1 second. I got another way I'm going to do it, y'all. Bear with me. I can just send it from here. Don't worry, I'm coming with it, y'all. How you feeling in the chat? There we go. Yeah. All right, guys. I got the images. Here's the first image of Carla channeling. Now, what's fascinating about this is Carla was a Christian, deeply believed in Christian faith, but she found herself being able to go into these channeling states. But before, when Ra first tried to communicate, when she was in this particular state with the Bible behind her head, a cup of water behind her head, and a white candle. Before, when Ra first tried to communicate, she checked Ra by saying, "You can only come through if you say that Jesus is Lord." And Ra said, "Jesus is Lord. He is a messenger of the law of one, just like we." And then Carla allowed Ra to come through. I'm going to show you guys another image. It's fascinating stuff, y'all. So happy to be able to share it with you guys. 1 second. Let me just remove this altogether. Yeah, we can just remove that. All right, guys, here's the second image. Just to give you guys a different angle. So she was completely in an unconscious channel state. She didn't remember anything that she said, you guys. You guys can actually go to llresearch.com, again, if you want to see all of this go on, because they recorded the channeling sessions. And the way Ra spoke through her was nothing like how she spoke when she was conscious. She would speak in a manner of using the English language like the way you've never heard it before. I'm going to read some of the Law of One here. And if you guys are still very interested to learn, again, on my YouTube channel here, you could go to playlists, and I have a Law of One audio book that I've been creating. Because the Law of One books that are out there right now, with audio books, they feel kind of bland because the language, the way that it's used, is so difficult to follow. By putting some music underneath it and just reading it out loud, I feel like people have been able to receive it more. We're on session 7 so far. There's a lot of sessions of the Law of One, so I'm just going to read a couple sessions a week and post it here. If you get ahead of me, you can easily go to llresearch.com and keep going. The Law of One material is truly, truly amazing. You want to know why the water in the Bible is significant? It's actually a really good question. So because of her belief in Christianity, it allowed for her to feel more comfortable, because it's about getting you in a comfortable state of consciousness, remember? And that's why the Bible is there. The reason that the incense is there is to change the vibration in the same way that the water is there. Wherever there is water, this allows for a transference between spirit and the physical. Water is like a conduit, much like how a mirror in a room is a conduit. Water is a type of crystal, and that's what many people don't understand. So, it's a living crystal. And we know what we can do with crystals, like crystal balls, we can see between worlds. So all of these things, using the elements, because of course they have the fire that's there as well with the candle, it allows for them to come in. So we'll go onward. Want you guys to see some of what's presented in the law of one so you can just get a good grasp of it. All right, y'all, let's look at this together. So this is from session 19. And this is how the whole law of one is set up. It's a conversation. They come in every day and they ask a series of questions up to Carla's capacity to be able to handle it. Because while she's in this state of channeling, she's actually losing quite a lot of energy. And you see how down below it says Ra, and it says I am Ra, and then below that it says questioner, and that's how the whole thing goes. They ask a series of questions, all the questions you could imagine. They channel this entity for quite some time, and it goes back and forth. But right here, I wanted to just talk about one of the responses that Ra has. So part of the question they were asking is the primary reason for the weakening of the physical body and the elimination of body hair, etc., getting older, so that this catalyst would act more strongly upon the mind and therefore create the evolutionary process. So he's basically asking, if getting older was going to affect us psychologically, and then that psychological suffering of getting older, would that help us evolve more quickly? And Ra responds by saying, I am Ra. This is not entirely correct, although closely associated with the distortions of our understanding. Consider, if you will, the tree, for instance. It is self-sufficient. Consider, if you will, the third density entity, that being us in the third density. It is self-sufficient only through difficulty and deprivation. It is difficult to learn alone, for there is a built-in handicap, at once the great virtue and the great handicap of third density. That is the rational, intuitive mind. So it even says there that basically our rational capacity alone makes it difficult for us to fully take in the totality of the creator. The feeling intuitive component must be there. So the law of one has interesting ways of speaking. So when they speak on rationality, they always say it rational, intuitive. But if they're speaking on intuition, they'll call it intuitive rationality, saying that they're two halves of a whole, essentially. Let's go onward. Thus, the weakening of the physical vehicle, as you call it, was designed to distort entities towards a predisposition to deal with each other. Thus, the lessons which approach a knowing of love can begin. So he said, basically, we've been designed to break down over time so that we would need assistance. So that would force us, even if we wanted to isolate ourselves, to have to deal with each other. And through dealing with each other, now we can learn the lessons of love. Because according to the law of one, we're only here to learn the lessons of love. That is the only reason we're here, to make the choice. Will we be of service to others? Will that be our display of love? Or will we be of service to self? Which is often called the left-handed path or the negative path, which is a whole nother conversation. But both paths lead ultimately back to the creator. But this is where we're here. We're here to make the choice of how deeply we will love others, or of how deeply we will love ourselves. So let's go onward. This catalyst then is shared between peoples as an important part of each self's development, as well as the experiences of the self in solitude and the synthesis of all experience through meditation. The quicker way to learn is to deal with other selves. This is a much greater catalyst than dealing with the self. Dealing with the self without other selves is akin to living without what you would call mirrors. Thus, the self cannot see the fruits of its beingness. Thus, each may aid each by reflection. This is also a primary reason for the weakening of the physical vehicle, as you call the physical complex. Damn, Ra be getting into it. Say the quickest way to learn is through other selves, and that's pretty true. Because you can go off and do all the meditative work and things of that nature and see and believe that you're very peaceful and you got it all together. But it's not until you go deal with somebody else that you see if you're going to be triggered or not. And it's through that you get a reflection. You see, the world is always mirroring itself back to you, right? If you see a homeless man and you feel pity for him, then it's really showing you the pity that still exists within you. And then if you see a man who now lives in the world, a man who is free, then it shows your more free perspective in your mind. Because the homeless man is only reflecting back to you what you think the world should be and things about yourself. Because according to the law of one, we only come here in order to learn different things in general. That everything essentially other than love is an illusion. And this is just an illusion to try and get us to see more of love. All right, let's go onward. And then I'll read some more of your questions. So you can hold them for right this second so I can get through it. And then I'll just primarily answer some questions. Y'all cool with that? Better. All right, I'm about to pull up another example family from the law of one. Boom. Bear with me 1 second, y'all. All right. So as you see here, the questioner was asking, the first entities on this planet, what was their origin? Where were they before they were on this planet? I am Ra, Ra says. The first entities upon this planet were water, fire, air, and earth. And we just got to stop right there because that even is heavy. Because Ra is essentially telling you something that many of us don't realize. The elements themselves are alive. I'm going to read it again. I am Ra. The first entities upon this planet were water, fire, air, and earth. Really think about that for a second. If you're standing on the moon and you're looking at the globe and you see the air, you see the water, you see the trees, you see, the various things that we see. What we're actually looking at is life itself. You don't have to see a human being or anything else because what you're actually perceiving is life. And that lets you know that if all of these elements are alive, then the consciousness, the planet itself is an aware being. If the elements are aware and then we're so happen to be aware, then the planet itself must also be aware, which would mean all planetary bodies are also aware. Let's continue. Here it says, questioner, the people that we now have, the first people, like us, where did they come from? How did they evolve? I am Ra. You speak of third density experience. The first of those to come here were brought from another planet in your solar system called by you the red planet, Mars. This planet's environment became inhospitable to third density beings. The first entities, therefore, were of this race, as you may call it, manipulated somewhat by those who were guardians at that time. Questioner, what race is that? And how did they get from Mars to here? I am Ra. The race is a combination of the mind, body, spirit complexes of those of your so-called red planet and a careful series of genetical adjustments made by the guardians of that time. These entities arrived or were preserved, for the experience upon your sphere by a type of birthing, which is a non-reproductive, but consists of preparing genetic material for the incarnation of the mind, body, spirit complexes of those entities from the red planet. Questioner, then I'm assuming what you're saying is that the guardian transferred the race here after the race had died from the physical as we know it on Mars. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct. That is a very fascinating thing because Credo Mutwa, somebody else whose information I have some on the page, Credo Mutwa spoke on a tribe known as the Vedoma tribe. And I'm going to show you guys this tribe because this will be very fascinating because the Vedoma do not look like other people. They don't look like other people at all. A very different group of people because they have a very distinct feature. 1 second, you guys. Coming with it. You guys already familiar? Anybody familiar with what the Vedoma got going on? Before I post it up here, anybody want to take a guess? All right, there it goes. That works just fine. All right. Here's the Vedoma, y'all. So fascinating. That is what the people of the Vedoma look like. Elongated skull is a good guess. The Vedoma. Wow. They call them the ostrich people because genetically all of their feet look like that. But according to their folklore, the Vedoma are not from this planet. Their ancestors was a bird-like species that created this foot, what we're seeing here, the way that their feet are designed. And they claim that these beings came from Mars. So it's interesting that the raw material also is reflecting that there was beings who were humans like we are, but weren't here at first. They were on the red planet. And within UFO folklore, they've always said that there was a cataclysm on Mars. And in the Law of One and many other spiritual teachings, they talk about Mars also being a planet that was colonized, that suffered a great fate, and that the majority of those beings are now evolving on Earth. And those same souls that were on Mars, about a third of our planet, is made up of those Mars souls and are reincarnating here. And if that's true, that means that there's many of us who have memories of wars that go beyond just the Earth, and we're still working through some of that trauma. All right. I got one more slide for you guys. And then after that, we can open up the questions about the Law of One. All right. Here, this is just a part of what Ra claims itself to be. And this is where Carla and them were writing in the introduction of the book. I just want to share this with you guys. Ra is also part of a larger group called the Confederation of Planets, in the service of the one infinite creator that consists of many other social memory complexes from other planets in our local portion of the Milky Way galaxy. According to Ra, members of the Confederation have been offering their services through channeling and other means to various individuals and groups around the world for some time. Their interaction with this planet stretching back into our deep prehistorical past. Our group has been in contact with assorted members of the Confederation since we began in 1962. The Confederation's primary message has always been that we live in a universe of unity, that the world as we perceive it is an illusion, that we are here to learn how to give and receive love, and that meditation is one of the principal means of discovering the creator that exists in all of us. Ooh, that one hit. Meditation. Because I know you guys hear about it if you're not already doing it. Indeed. I actually do have one more slide though, and then we can go to questions. I might need to turn the light on in here. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. All right. Now the last one. I just want to share this glossary from the Law of One. Two things: the love and light and magical personality. Love, light, love. As I told you, the way it speaks is, it's basically always speaking when two things are one half of a whole. Basically, it'll show both halves, and it's saying that basically the feeling of love, its physical manifestation, is light, and light's other manifestation, the feminine part of it, is love, which makes a lot of sense because when we feel love in the body, we feel warmth inside, right? And we feel warmth right here in the chest. No different than the sun. When it shines, what does it do? It magnetizes. It makes us all come towards it. We all want to lay out in the sun and tan and do all of the things. It gives us energy. And it's just doing what it's meant to do. It's not doing it for us. Its nature is to shine. Our heart is very similar. Its nature is to be open and expressive and loving and giving. And it's much like the sun. Its expression is radiant. So it says here, the infinite universe, there is only one energy, love light or light love, or intelligent energy. The universe is made from and of love light, light love. It is that energy which heals, builds, removes, destroys, transforms, and forms the pathways or so-called natural laws of any particular universe. This energy comes into being as love, the second primal distortion, using free will, creates light, the third primal distortion, thus becoming love light. Love and light, like love and wisdom, are not black and white, but faces of the same coin. There is the same difference between love and light and love as there is between teach learning and learn teaching. Another example, y'all, because anytime you teach and you learn, and anytime you learn and you teaching, because you're teaching the teacher. Love light is the enabler, the power, the energy giver. Light love is the manifestations which occurs when light has been impressed with love. And that's why the message is love, people. And that's what we're going to be getting into for as long as I'm up here doing it. We're going to talk about how to love more deeply, how to love yourself more deeply, how to love others more deeply, and to remember this, that everybody is doing the best they can from where they currently are. You may feel differently, but where they are in their own awareness, they believe that they are finding the shortest way to happiness. It is the thing about managing your nervous system. Even the person that robs and steals believes that he can get away with that robbing and stealing. He believes that it's the shortest way from here to there. He believes that he's confident in it. But his awareness does not allow him to know that there may be police around the corner, et cetera, et cetera. So he's in a more compressed state of awareness than you may be. But from where he is at currently, he is doing what he believes is the best. It does not mean that that's where his physical capacity is, but it's about what he's able to do in the moment. And remembering that is easy when we're functioning from the heart, understanding that we too have needed trials and tribulations to get where we are today. We must also extend that grace to everybody else, to allow them to go through their process and not judge them for where they currently are. Because where they currently are will get them to a more expanded state of consciousness in due time. Now, next, the magical personality, which is my favorite part because that's what we're trying to embody here. That's like bringing the Christ self into this reality. The magical personality, when the higher self is properly and efficaciously invoked for the purpose of a working, it is called the magical personality. Upon this invocation, a bridge is made between space and time and space. As consequence, the higher self directly experiences the third density catalyst for the duration of the working. And the third density self takes upon itself something of a vestment of a personality of consciousness that bestows magical perception and power. And all we talking about right there is channeling your higher self, the part of yourself that still exists with heaven. You see kind of like what I was talking about, the cloud and the rain. The entire soul that we have cannot incarnate into this small body. So it will divide itself into many incarnations to experience various things. But the majority of it stays in the heavens, in the sixth density, where Ra is from. So our higher self is essentially a social memory complex that we're a part of, that we're unaware that we're a part of it. And the way that it guides us is through excitement. When we're actually praying to God, we're communicating with the higher self, the portion of ourself that's still in heaven that is actually guiding the life and is constantly trying to redirect us. And it only assists when asked for assistance. And what the magical personality is the part of yourself that moves out the ego, which does not know what it's doing. That's why we're here. The ego don't know what it's doing. To the part that knows through feeling. And although you can't see what's around the corner, you can feel that what's around the corner is what's supposed to be around the corner. And the magical personality is that part of the self that has so much faith that it doubts nothing because it can feel that all is happening as it should. It has a good feeling. It is optimistic. And that part of the self is magnetized so it can move mountains. It's the radiant sun, the sun that pulls everything around it. Everything orbits the sun. The same thing happens with the magical personality. Everybody wants the radiance and can feel the love of the magical personality. So, with that said, what I suggest you guys do today: one, check out the Law of One material. So I provided it. Go in on the Law of One material, ask a plethora of questions. I'll do more videos on the Law of One. I just want to do this introduction to channeling and why I believe the Law of One to be important. It's time, y'all. Check out the Law of One. Like I said, I have a playlist right here on the channel, so you can always go check that out. And secondly, an exercise for you to be able to tap into that truest self is really just to go into a meditative state. And in the same way, if you realize that there's something that occurs when you cross a threshold, you notice how when you walk back into the house from outside, your shoulders might drop. You might hit that, because you finally home. You kick your shoes off. You're a whole new being. Just because you walked over a threshold, it's the same way when you're about to leave out the house. When you leave out the house, you change your consciousness just because you walked across the threshold. So to become the magical personality is literally to use your imagination. Remember, I told you earlier, imagination is the greatest tool. Because if you can imagine something negative as an example, you'll have a negative effect in the body. If you imagine something positive, like seeing your lover, you start to have physiological responses. So what you have to do is imagine yourself, the highest version of yourself, almost coming out in a temple by putting on a white robe. Imagine yourself as a wizard and imagine what that feels like. Imagine yourself making all the space for all parts of yourself, remembering that you are doing absolutely the best that you can from your current state of awareness. You're trying to keep it together. Everybody don't understand you though. A lot of people think that you're this way and that way is because they haven't met you. They don't know the real you. And even you reject a lot of the real you. So in this instance, this is a way to get familiar with the more divine portion of yourself. Because if somebody said something negative about you in particular, and I said, now imagine what your highest version of yourself would respond to that negativity. See your most angelic self, and how would you respond to the negativity? And you could give me a divine answer. Because that's all it takes to gain your divinity, is to see that magical aspect of yourself. The part of yourself that knows true peace, tranquility, and softness, so to speak. You can tap right into it. So that's what my exercise for you. Just go into a meditative state and imagine this higher version of the self. Looking at all the portions of yourself, allowing it all to exist. Activating the Divine Mother by embracing all those portions of yourself that you have cast to the shadow, that you believe is not worthy, that you believe is tainted, that you believe is sinful. You must embrace. Understand that everybody has their shadow, but it's only in the shadow because it's suppressed. Am I putting on this magical personality, this higher self, the real you, the honest you? It allows you to step fully into your power where no part of the self is left out. All right, family. We are an hour in. That pretty much does it. Now, any questions that you would like to ask? Let's get it. I'll respond to some and tell you a little bit about more what we got going on later this week. Let me go ahead and go back through the comments real quick. Peace and love, peace and love. You saw me on Brother Rich's channel. I remember you saying that African and same Pacific Islanders were descended from Syrians. Be able to give a little bit more insight on that. Ace One, I think I'm gonna do a video just for it. If you're still here, Ace One, if you're still here, drop a praying hands in the chat, and I might share something just for you. If Ace One's still here, drop the praying hands. Jesky, thank you for that. Much love. I appreciate it. I won't be showing you guys how to meditate today, but I will be doing a live meditation. Like I said, on my here on the YouTube channel, you can go into some of my older videos. I have a whole video on how to meditate, teaching you exactly how to do it. It's a guided meditation, so you could do it with it, you know. Then it's there for free. Again, I do one-on-one guided meditations. If you go to my link tree that's in the bio, you can see some of that. If that's something that you're looking for. Consulting, um, plant medicine ceremonies, speaking engagements, the whole nine. So if you want to connect and want, more than the live meditation that I'll be doing or what's on the page already, we can always get into something like that. And let's see what else was asked. Brother Jane Roberts channel, the entity known as Seth. Indeed, yes, Seth. Seth is a powerful entity coming through. Jesky said, so my question is, we need to find out who the true creator is. Let's talk about this, Jesky. And I'll leave it at that before I end the stream. The true creator, as is known in all mystery schools, is technically a mystery. But the only way to perceive the creator is through feeling. Feeling is what gives way to being. So by going deep inside the self, in the heart of the self, you can feel connected to all things. And you remember that the creator is all things. So it's when you have that state of being able to become unified that you experience the creator. But the creator is a being that goes beyond form. The creator is all the form, but goes beyond form. It's not an entity with a name. I think the best way to think about it is like the ocean. We're all just droplets of water in that ocean with the same essence of the ocean in totality. But all of us together make the whole ocean, and the ocean makes all of us droplets of water. In general, consciousness itself is the creator. From this state of being, we only see ourselves. From this particular state of being, we believe ourselves to be separate. But instantly, when you have a super conscious experience, which we'll get into later through meditation, you'll find yourself having memories that you forgot about from previous lives, etc. And then you realize that you're far more than you understood. You see what I'm saying? And that expansion of consciousness is what the soul is trying to achieve. It's trying to return back to recalling that it's God. So in many ways, what has been said is God being everything did not have a way to know itself or experience itself. So it created the various systems of veiling and forgetting. So it would forget itself and have to rediscover itself through a series of incarnations throughout its own being to be able to expand itself back into itself. I know it sounds confusing, but that's essentially the evolutionary journey of all souls, trying to expand back out into the creation. And then once you expand back out, you breathe back in, then you dive back into the creation to explore and see other aspects of yourself. And then come back out in expansion. So that's one way of looking at it. What else was here? It looked like me. The journey of creator is a mystery, also. Indeed. Loving you all is a very powerful thing. Best way to help be able to really see others. Is your second birth the cause of oneself? I'm not sure I understand the question, if I'm being honest. All right, y'all. It's been love. I appreciate you guys being with me. All the creator does want you to know, because you are the creator. And all you have to do is let go. But we're gonna get more into that because it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, y'all got to split. It's been real. I'm gonna make sure to share all the information that I got that I can share with y'all on a regular basis. So y'all tap in. Share the channel. That helps support. Just share it. That's all I ask. Share the information. Share my TikTok page. Share my YouTube channel. Just share it. That's all. That's all I can ask. If you want to donate, you can hit the link tree. If you want to build, you can hit the link tree. But ultimately, all I ask is that you share the information, and I'm gonna keep on giving it to y'all. I love y'all genuinely. I don't know y'all personally, but I know you through knowing myself. You know what I'm saying? I know you through knowing myself. I know you got struggles that you don't share with the world. I know that life has been hard in its various ways, and I know that everybody don't understand you. I know everybody don't understand you. I know you feel unseen many times. I know you feel unheard. I know you want to find unity, but you got 68 other people in here with you right now. I want you to realize that you got 68 other people in here with you right now that feel just like how I feel. So, family, the world is changing. Family, you get to smile. Family, the world is changing. We coming together. So, even right here, communicate with each other, befriend each other. We only change the world through unity. It's really just that simple. The law of one, everything is one. You dig? Ebony, this is gonna be the last question. I'm gonna answer Ebony's question. What's up, Ebony? And then I'm gonna skate, beloved. Go ahead. Right here. All right. Well, that's it, y'all. Peace. Much love to y'all. We get it back cracking soon. Glad I found y'all too.